A poem by Shel Silverstein. Smart. My dad gave me a $1 bill, 'cause I'm his smartest son, and I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters, 'cause 2 is more than 1. And then I took the quarters and traded them to Lou for 3 dimes. I guess he don't know that 3 is more than 2. Just then along came old blind Bates, and just 'cause he can't see, he gave me 4 nickels for my 3 dimes, and 4 is more than 3. And I took the nickels to Hiram Coombs down at the seed feed store, and the fool gave me 5 pennies for them, and 5 is more than 4. And then I went and showed my dad, and he got red in the cheeks, and closed his eyes and shook his head, too proud to speak. Let's see, we'll randomly select another, though that kind of my favorite, kind of the best, just a really good one, and especially I think it has something a little bit to do with Bitcoin and all these altcoins and all these stocks that we buy, because, you know, you get 2 is more than 1, and 1 is more than 3, and you keep trading and trading and trading, and at the end of it you have 8 shiny pennies, and that's worth more than $1, I guess, sometimes. Here we go. This is a classic. I'll show you the illustration. Well, not in this camera view. Maybe in this view. Let's see some illustrations here. Oh boy, there goes the cover. This dust cover is seen its better days. This is a classic book. Been in my library quite a long time. So there it is, peanut butter sandwich, and there's the king about to enjoy some peanut butter. This poem is called Peanut Butter Sandwich. I'll sing you a poem of a silly young king who played with the world at the end of a string, but he only loved one single thing, and that was just a peanut butter sandwich. His scepter and his royal gowns, his regal throne and golden crowns were brown and sticky from the mounds and drippings from each peanut butter sandwich. His subjects all were silly fools, for he had passed a royal rule. That was all they could learn in school, was how to make a peanut butter sandwich. He would not eat his sovereign steak, he scorned his soup and kingly cake, and he told his courtly cook to bake an extra sticky peanut butter sandwich. And then one day he took a bite and started chewing with delight, but found his mouth was stuck quite tight from that last bite of peanut butter sandwich. His brother pulled, his sister pried, the wizard pushed, his mother cried, "My boy's committing suicide," from eating his last peanut butter sandwich. The dentist came and the royal doc, the royal plumber banged and knocked, but still those jaws tightly locked. Oh, darn that peanut butter sandwich. The carpenter, he tried with pliers, the telephone man tried with wires, the firemen, they tried with fire, but that couldn't melt the peanut butter sandwich. With ropes and pulleys, drills and coil, with steam and lubricating oil, for 20 years of tears and toil, they fought that awful peanut butter sandwich. Then all his royal subjects came. They hooked his jaws with grappling chains, and pulled both ways with might and main against that stubborn peanut butter sandwich. Each man and woman, girl and boy, put down their plows and pots and toys, and pulled until crack! Oh joy! They broke right through that peanut butter sandwich. A puff of dust, a screech, a squeak, the king's jaw opened with a creak, and then, in a voice so faint and weak, the first words that they heard him speak were, "How about a peanut butter sandwich?" That's a pretty good one, huh? You can't beat that one, right? Has a little bit of everything in there, right? He likes that thing a lot. He likes that peanut butter sandwich. Let's try one more shot. Hector the Collector. Hector the collector collected bits of strings, collected dolls with broken heads and rusty bells that would not ring, pieces out of puzzled pictures, bent up nails and ice cream sticks, twists of wires, worn out tires, paper bags and broken bricks, old chipped vases, half shoelaces, Gatlin guns that wouldn't shoot, leaky boats that wouldn't float, and stopped up horns that wouldn't toot, butter knives that had no handles, copper keys that fit no locks, rings that were too small for fingers, dried up leaves and patched up socks, worn out belts that had no buckles, electric trains that had no tracks, airplane models, broken bottles, three-legged chairs and cups with cracks. Hector the collector loved these things with all his soul, loved them more than shining diamonds, loved them more than glistening gold. Hector called to all the people, "Come and share my treasure trunk." And all the silly, sightless people came and looked and called it junk. Pretty good, huh? All right, we'll do this one for the virus. We'll do this one here for the virus. Virus needs a damn poem too. It's called "Sick" by Shel Silverstein. "I cannot go to school today," said little Peggy Ann McKay. "I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps. My mouth is wet, my throat is dry. I'm glowing blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I've counted 16 chicken pox. And there's one more, that's 17. And don't you think my face looks green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be instamatic flu. I cough and sneeze and gasp and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My hip hurts when I move my chin. My belly button's caving in. My back is wrenched, my ankle sprained. My appendix pains each time it rains. My nose is cold, my toes are numb. I have a sliver in my thumb. My neck is stiff, my spine is weak. I hardly whisper when I speak. My tongue is filling up my mouth. I think my hair is falling out. My elbow's bent, my spine ain't straight. My temperature is 108. My brain is shrunk, I cannot hear. There is a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail, and my heart is... What? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday. Goodbye. I'm going out to play. So there you go. Shel Silverstein from the classic Where the Sidewalk Ends. This is my original copy. Let's see. Copyright 1974. So I've had this quite a while. We've also got a bonus advance edition of Big Book Day. I have a big Shel Silverstein book. That's right. It's huge. It says right here, I don't know if you can read it. It says, first edition, not for children. Not for children. Unlike the poetry book, Shel Silverstein also did a lot of art and designs for things like Playboy magazine. He did cartoons, and he also did dirty poems too, right? I mean, silly, nasty limericks and things. So these are just giant pictures that he did of kind of stories. So this story, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well. I can't see it. It says, daughters, beware of men bringing pedestals. And we have this guy here. He's got a big pedestal. He's bringing it to this woman. You can see the... So you can see he's going to put her up on a pedestal. So let's see how that turns out. So again, this is not easy. This is a gigantic book that's dust cover is falling off and attacking me. And this is also great for radio. This is great radio. So, oh well, so much for the audio podcast. But here we go, just a little bit more. We'll try to keep showing this big poem. So he's bowing. He's got the pedestal. He's going to get her up on it. He's got the pedestal up. It's about to fall over. She's fallen over. He's about to, looks like, mount the pedestal. And then, as you can see here, the sad ending. Uh-oh. It's fathers, beware. Have your daughters beware of men bringing pedestals. Pretty cool. Powerful little painting cartoon there. And then one more, because I'm a glutton for punishment. This segment isn't really working. But it is April Fool's Day. So here we go. Zoom out. Can we get a little focus? Focus! That's a big no. How about now? Frustrating. How about now? All right, so here we go. There's a good old Jesus with the cross. There's some Roman soldiers. And it says somewhere here at the top, they forgot the nails. So here it is. Jesus and the soldiers. They forgot the nails. As you can see, it has more panels. He's like kind of hanging there, but not really. They're like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then Jesus is such a good guy, just kind of acts like he's being crucified. So there you go. A big, giant Shel Silverstein book to get us started today. But I'm afraid, even though it's April Fool's Day, we're going to have to cover the news. Not a funny year for April Fool's jokes. Normally I'm a fan, but not today, not this year. We've got a couple in the roundup. We'll be not laughing at them, but we'll be withholding our desire to ban and block and mute them. It's not their fault that they don't get that April Fool's Day isn't funny this year. It's a personal issue. Everyone has to decide whether or not April Fool's Day is funny this year. Black tea today. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Be sure to give us a like and a share. We've got 8 thumbs up. I just liked it myself. Checking out the chat. They want to know if we're going to do calls today. I hope to do calls. We just didn't have time or really voice yesterday. Yesterday's press conference, day before yesterday. Wow, what a variety show. The My Pillow guy. It just had everything. We had more of your usual press conference yesterday. It started out really competent, really tight. President reading off a piece of paper. Several journalists reported that they were impressed by this new tone, this new president. Unfortunately, that unraveled about halfway through, and he went back to the old tone, the old fighting president. So we'll have some clips of that. We'll play some news. I wish we could just ignore it for April Fool's Day and say, hey, the whole thing was a hoax and it wasn't real and it never happened, but we can't do that. But yeah, I hope to have some calls, so get ready to phone call later. We'll open that up. And until then, let's just get started on today's news. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt. This is the Thomas Hunt Show. That makes sense. The price of Bitcoin is down 2.9% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,243, a high of 6,509, and a low of 6,205. That's $1 for 16,022 Satoshis. Checking out the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they are open and they are down. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 3.1% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 21,237, slightly below the previous close of 21,917. Money printer, activate. Checking out the coronavirus worldwide. Previously on this show, we had around 823,000 infected, 40,000 deaths. Doing a quick refresh, 886,495 infected, 44,249 deaths. We seem to be seeing about a 10% increase in the deaths every day. Stay home. Stay home. I know it's not fun. Let's stay home. Wear a mask. If you have to go outside, if you have to work, if you have to get groceries, wear a mask. If you don't have a mask, make a mask. We've got instructions right here. You can use parchment paper. You can use an old t-shirt. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be 95% particles or whatever, but it's going to be more than zero. If you go out without a mask, I hear people are calling that raw breathing. Like you're a raw breather. You just breathe whatever they give you. Not a good look these days. This is a good look. This is the 1918 pandemic. Look at these police officers. What country is this? United States of America. They're all wearing masks. How did we beat the 1918 pandemic? We wore masks. How are we going to beat this one? We're going to wear masks. Like this show. Hey, we got 10 likes, and I liked it myself, so we got 9 likes. But you can join us in liking this show. It's free. It's fun. I like all the YouTube videos I watch. I just think they're great. Checking out coronavirus cases in the United States. Previously, we had around 174,000 infected, around 3,400 deaths. Quick refresh. 190,297 infected, 4,115 deaths. We are rounding the corner to 200,000. That only puts us a few doubles away from 1 million infected. This is the enemy. Doesn't care about your politics, your portfolio, your money, your job, your past, your future, your history, your riches, nothing. We're going to beat this enemy. I was listening to, well, you guys won't like him, but I was listening to Michael Moore's podcast yesterday, and he was talking about how weak this virus is to soap, how its outsides just melt the minute you put soap on it. 20 seconds of washing your hands, soap, staying inside. We're going to beat this thing. Hopefully later on Twitter, there was a great XKCD cartoon. We're going to go through that. And XKCD, very scientific-minded stick figure drawing cartoon, tells us exactly how we're going to beat this guy. We're going to beat this guy staying home and washing our hands with soap. That's it. I said April Fool's Day jokes aren't funny, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Wasabi Wallet is closed sourcing their back end. This is very funny. I hope they didn't spend very much time on this. A Bitcoin creator also founded Monero, according to Bitcoinist.com. The problem with April Fool's Day is I don't know if this is a joke or just stupid. It's a bad day to release information like this. It's a bad day to announce anything. Let's just wait till tomorrow. Crypto exchange Binance is branching out into mining and already offering generous referral bonuses to potential clients. Hey, wait a minute. That is not April Fool's Day. Binance, which yesterday bought CoinMarketCap, continues to expand and buy/take over more parts of the crypto ecosystem. Not a joke. Interesting day to announce it, though. Remember, Gmail was also announced on April Fool's Day a long time ago. People thought that was a joke. Let Google read our email? Oh, we'd never do that. Another not funny joke. Infinite American HODL, and I don't like this. I mean, you see this in your feed. Even though you've been in this a long time, you know, we're going to see what happens if we go to 3K, if we go all the way back up. A lot of people lost a lot of money, very stressed out right now, so it's not a good time to be putting out these jokes. But he says, I'm out. I just can't take it anymore. I sold everything at the last drop to 6,200. Some said we're going back to 1,000. I'm afraid it's worse. In my opinion, we're going all the way back up to $200. Bitcoin is dying. Wake up, get out while you can. It's still over. Not funny. I'm going to resist the urge to like mute or block this guy. But that urge is right here. That's like, I'm holding back my blocking arm. And then this guy, not funny again. We will never see Bitcoin above 10K again. He used to say this kind of shit, but he was serious. He kept saying it, that you'll never see it below 10K. You'll never. And the last time he said it, I almost sold just based upon the principle. I was like, if someone's out there saying something that stupid, you know, we must be overinflated. And just like the last time when we were up at 18K, you started to get all those phone calls from your coworkers and your old friends. They're like, hey, are you still into that Bitcoin thing? You still into that Bitcoin? And you didn't know it at the time. And you had a little bit of a inkling, at the time, a little bit of a deja vu, a little foresight. But yeah, that was the time to sell. Like when people are saying things like it'll never go below 10K, and when your high school friends are calling you up, might be a good time to sell. And we're talking April Fools. One of the biggest April Fool's jokes in the world that you don't remember. Back in 1999, out here on the internet, it was a big deal. Let me go ahead and read to you from Archaeotex. Arctrae, I don't know, it's a bird. It's a dinosaur bird. But here we go. This is a big part of the internet back in the day. And let me see. Everyone's writing me messages. Let's see. Live now, join whenever. All right, great. So now I'm replying to messages. But here we go. Let's go and read about the April Fool's Day prank of 1999 involved with User Friendly, the classic comic strip on the internet. As he writes, I was a kind of big part of the user-friendly comic strip community. Back in the old days, 1999 or so, Iliad, the author, and a couple of other Linux geek-oriented sites came up with what was in theory a great idea. He dropped hints for a month or two coming up to April about how a big, unmasked, unnamed company was threatening the site. The cartoon, for those of you who don't know, is a sysadmin, Linux-focused, and Microsoft-bashing online webcomic. Then he went off somewhere, and in the early hours of April 1st, myself and a couple of other Eufys moved the archives out of the way and replaced the full site with a page saying that Microsoft had taken over the site. I think we did it late night on March 31st. It was April 1st somewhere. And then headed out for a movie. Possibly The Matrix, leaving the IRC window into hashtag user-friendly open so we could come back and enjoy the antics. Well, things went wrong insofar as people didn't get it, and because it happened before April 1st, no one got that it was a joke. Some people scoured the web for cached versions, others tried to resurrect the site from saved files, etc. It was a fairly impressive global community effort by the Eufys to pull it all together to get the site back up and out of control of the evil monster, Microsoft. When everyone was told the next day that it was all a joke, well, let's just say it didn't go over well. Even though it was a mostly IRC community, there were a few locals and non-locals who had a good enough relationship with Iliad that he got calls and emails basically to let him know this was not acceptable by the community. Basically, he had told them their mother died, waited 12 hours, and then jumped out and said, ha ha ha, just kidding. The ramifications are that there's a recurring April 1st day joke on the site where the characters keep the cartoonists locked up and so forth. Here's a classic one. I'll try to make it bigger. The web was smaller back in the day. But here it is, a classic by user-friendly Iliad. Hello, folks. This is the 1st of April, also known as April Fool's Day. Due to what occurred a year ago on this day, we've taken a few precautions so that your viewing pleasure isn't disturbed by wayward pranks. Of course, this is a cartoon strip, so we have to include humor in what we do. And then it shows the cartoonist, he's been tied up. So classic April Fool's prank, 1999. So, gosh, I guess 20 years ago. In case you hadn't heard. But yes, that's one of the reasons why the internet is a little not too happy with April Fools sometimes. We thought we lost our favorite cartoon strip to the hated Microsoft. People were mad. But let's keep going. We've got some more April Fools news, I guess. Trump hints at $9 oil after accidental Bitcoin plug. And once again, I'm not sure that he's quite plugging Bitcoin. This is one of their, they keep saying he does, but he's not going to mention it. He was talking about how the oil prices were at 22 and it's cheaper if you want to negotiate, that it's like the 50s. And then he even joked that if you put in a good bid at $9, you could probably get what you wanted. The last time the oil was $10 was in 1998 when Saudi Arabia flooded the market. Not sure what the Bitcoin reference is here, but yes, it was stunning to hear Trump in the press conference talk about $9 a barrel oil. I saw a sign the other day. It was on Twitter or whatever. I don't know where it was, but it was $1.09 for the oil. Unbelievable. And obviously, Saudi Arabia, to put a global spin on it, because we talked about it here before, but Saudi Arabia is undercutting both Russia and the United States shale oil in order to put shale oil out of business. Recently, the United States is not dependent on Saudi Arabia for oil. We actually make enough oil here, but we can't make it at $9 a barrel. We've got an extra special guest for you this morning. We're joined by Dan. How's it going, Dan?
It's going absolutely fine. Can you hear me okay? Because I've just I've switched to a new mic, you see.
Sounds nice and loud. Sounds good.
Oh yeah. I've even got a green, like, you wouldn't believe it. All this stuff's been lying around and I've not done anything with it. So now I've got like a bendy arm for a microphone, and then I've got a green screen behind me that you can't see right now, which is why my background's a bit better.
Well,
But
so
it
far
looks
we've
like I've been
got to get
the
you back
inside
on the screen. So let's see.
Ooh. And the solitary confinement, I think, is causing me issues because my skin's really bright right now. I think I need a tan, like a really good tan.
There's no sun where you live anyway. There's no sun there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
April Fools, there'll never be sun in England.
That's no good. No one likes that. But here we go. Now we've got you on the screen. Looks like you're in San Francisco today. Very nice.
I am.
I saw a funny thread on Twitter. They were all talking about how much they like the Zoom backgrounds. And it's funny for me because we switched to Zoom a little while ago. We had no choice. They shut down Google Hangouts, but everyone else in the world is now having to use Zoom, and apparently they love backgrounds. There was a big thing all about how this and this, a chat and this, and it was like you could be in a Top Gun fighter jet, and you could be on the bridge of the Enterprise. All these things. People love Zoom back. Hey, you're at the pandemic of 1918. Yeah. Everybody's wearing a mask.
Just a friendly reminder, everyone. Apart from my mask. I don't need it because I'm in solitary confinement, confined to the loft. I'm like the Anne Frank of the pandemic.
I got to go there.
Well, maybe
it's pretty crazy.
It's probably a bit too serious, but I missed it actually when I was in Amsterdam. Was it cool? Well, not cool, but like
it was moving. I mean, it was terrifying and it was real, and it really made the book real. I mean, of course, I read the book when I was younger, and it was it was a lot harder then to understand like what really happened and all that kind of thing. But after you've had a lot of years and a few amount of books and all kinds of things, you really go there and you see it. It's very small. I remember the bookcase that they hid the ladder to get up there. That was a big moment to like see that and to see it open and then to go up there. And then it was a good sized house, but they had 2 or 3 different families living there. So much like now with the quarantine, the Franks and the other families that hid with them in the attic could not go out, not even once. And maybe I've been wondering because maybe it's just these damn movies or maybe it's that damn book, but I seem to have a much better handle on what quarantine means than say my parents. Right? My parents are not taking quarantine very seriously. They keep finding new and exciting ways to break it. And I call them and I'm like, hey, have you had any luck staying inside doing nothing? And no, they haven't. They went to the store. They went to get gas. They had their carpets cleaned. I mean, it's like they're going out of their way to not understand this quarantine. And just maybe as a good or I don't want to be flippant with my example, but to go to Anne Frank there and to say, she couldn't go outside to get gas. She couldn't go outside to get, to go get your carpets cleaned. Like, imagine if they had the carpets cleaned in the attic in the middle of the crisis. I mean, it just wasn't there's something going on upstairs. Oh, do you think they're hiding any Jewish people? Only if they like carpet cleaning. I don't even know if they had vacuum cleaners in World War II. But yeah, you get the idea. I mean, I'm sure they didn't have carpet cleaning trucks, but
well, my parents, they've had the authorities visit them. Now their case is a bit more, which isn't actually too much of an odd thing, but for them. But so what actually happened is they live on a golf course. Like there's a golf course, like a golf course. There's like 2 houses on there. Golf course is all shut down, but they're like physically on the golf course. I mean, it's 10 foot away from the hole. And so they were, walking on the golf course, which is shut down, and maybe having a swing because the golf course was shut down. and the police were like, you got me, and they got told off because apparently, even though it's right next to their house and it's closed off, you can't walk on it because that doesn't count as exercise. So they are being a bit silly, these coppers, with their drones and all sorts. But
well, that's one of the things people worry about. If you give someone power, they take it and they use too much power, and they like the power. They like to keep the people off the grounds. But yeah, it reminds me of something Mark Twain said, that the biggest waste of space were golf courses and cemeteries. So imagine we could turn those all into public parks right now. You just
going back on the
remove the headstones, just keep going, right?
Going back on the Anne Frank thing, this is pretty morbid, but when the mine was floating, when the hysteria first kicked off, and I was like, right, people are panic buying toilet rolls. I'm gonna have to think about how we're gonna secure the place. So I thought, the best be the doors, and I've got a lot of wood for that, and blah blah blah. And I actually had the morbid conversation with Carrie about what do we do if we're stuck in the loft. And our dogs, our lovely little dogs, Dave, Growl, and Izzy, like if there's a horde of people outside, I was like, we're going to have to like silence them in some way. We actually had the discussion, and I tried to make it that Carrie had to take both of them out. But apparently that's going to be my job if we've got hordes of people trying to claw at the doors and we're scared and the dogs bark.
Well, let's not think of that, because those two dogs wouldn't last a minute in Anne Frank's attic. It would not be a thing for a second. They bark at the slightest noise. So
yep.
I imagine they'll probably know you're there, but who wants humans? Like, this isn't like zombies. They don't want your brain. Like, if you hide upstairs and let them have your cache of food downstairs and toilet rolls, yeah, that's what they really want, is the toilet roll. So let's see what else is going on. You want to go back to the news? Let's see. They're saying some interesting stuff in the chat. I don't know if it's true or not. I haven't read about it myself. Something creepy about, it's that. Oh, I see. It's the source now. No, I don't care. It's a bad source. Sorry, guys. Like, I like Cliff High and the whole, like, that's the guy with the old guy with the computer, but it's not a computer, and he predicts things. And he apparently says, I'm not even going to repeat it, but yeah, sorry, Rolando, I would check the source on that. I wouldn't go with that. I would wait for a better source. But yeah, oil, $9 a barrel. The president called it a tax cut for all Americans. Dan, what do you think? Is a oil price reduction the same thing as a tax cut? Does that put any money in your pocket?
Well, like all of these things, that apparently, when they all tell you from the top, they're like, oh yeah, the trickle down effect. No, it doesn't fucking trickle down. Think about like the oil price. Pardon me. The oil prices, for example, we barely see, especially when it crashed down to like $27 or whatever it was a year or two ago. We didn't see any of that in the very slight reduction, but we pay so much tax over here. But the other thing is, I got an interesting email today. Slight segue, but go back to oil. This always happens during interest rate cutting. So they cut the interest rates, obviously, Bank of England, by a minuscule amount. First thing that comes out is, hey, everyone, we're cutting your savings interest. They never say, we're going to cut your loan interest. They go, we're cutting your savings interest. And then that's it. It's crazy. And so oil, it'd be amazing. I mean, I love the fact that we pay per gallon, like we pay per litre what you guys pay per gallon nearly. It's crazy. So I was able to drive in a giant Chevy Tahoe across the desert and like, but over here that costs a fortune. So maybe you guys will see it trickle down. Hopefully it trickles down in terms of products. So products become cheaper, petroleum's cheaper. Hopefully we don't see an influx of refined plastics and stuff, because Greta will lose her
Maybe in normal times we could hope for products to be cheaper, but at this time I imagine they'll just raise the price on all products anyway. I agree, you're getting close, that truck drivers are the only ones who are really going to benefit from this, and even then I think only if they own the truck, and that's a huge risk anyway. They're little businessmen there. Uber drivers, if there were any on the road right now, would benefit from this. Taxi drivers would benefit from this. I don't know who else. It's not I guess normally commuting is a big part of America's cost, but since everyone's staying home, working from home, this doesn't really help you until you're back out commuting again. But yeah, this is This is Saudi Arabia destroying America's oil market. So, yeah, I know. Another option would be to subsidize the oil market and save it. But that would be bad for Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I don't know that we'd do that. And, yeah, we have so many other
oil
bailouts going on. Well, let's get going. Let's get back to Bitcoin here. GitHub is burying Bitcoin code inside an Arctic mountain to ride out the next 1,000 years. Thanks, but no thanks. And again, it's also April Stupid Fools, so maybe this is a stupid April Fool's joke from CoinDesk. So you can't even take the news seriously today. It's one of the worst days on the internet, really. It's not, every once in a while there'll be a funny one like Google Mars or Google Moon or whatever it was, and it's like, oh, that's a chuckle, and no one's going to take that seriously. It's perfectly absurd. But yeah, I don't know what good it would do to bury the code. Better to put a miner in space or a miner on the moon or Mars or something like that. That would be a better use. I think this is just a stupid.
Put it on a slow decaying orbit, and it will just be there for ages and ages. The problem is, though, with April Fool's news is that satire is becoming so close to reality. Like, you read April Fool's and you're like, this is more normal than a normal day because of all the crazy stuff that happens. So it's kind of like, oh, wow, April Fool's has become the mundane day where the people can't keep up with the craziness of the ideas and stuff that's coming out in the world. It's impossible. Watch Tiger King. I mean, that's...
It's on my list. I've seen it, but I haven't watched it yet. I found it on Netflix. It's there. So I don't know. They've been talking about it here all week. I've seen all the images now on the internet. They're starting to break through. It's another big
trickle down.
Another big craze we have to get into, the Tiger King. This must be an April Fool's joke, of course. Economist Jeffrey Tucker. Can you imagine Bitcoin price if it had scaled? And again, Tucker is one of these Bitcoin Cash people. He's stuck in the island off of Japan. You know, the war is over, but he's still fighting the war from his bunker, and he's still like, bigger blocks. We need bigger blocks. I don't know anything. I'm not a technical person. I'm an economist. And he's getting left behind, and it's embarrassing. And yeah, it's just an embarrassing old man thing to say. And this guy used to be really important to Bitcoin. He was a solid libertarian economist early on, saw the value in Bitcoin, compared it to gold, said it was like digital gold. He used to make great speeches. I saw one of his speeches at the Bitcoin in the Beltway conference. I want to say it was like maybe 2014 or 2015. And Jeffrey Tucker was just on fire at the time. He did this beautiful metaphor about gold. He was like, you know, gold's great, but it takes up space and it's heavy and it's hard to move around and you have to pay someone to guard it. And he went through this whole thing how, you know, if you had 1 bar of gold, you're pretty good. But if you have 100 bars of gold, you have to hire someone to like build you a cart, and then you have to like drag it around with you. Or you have to have a vault where you store the gold. Then you have to hire someone to protect the gold. Then you never know if the gold is really the gold. Then they give you a piece of paper that represents the gold. He was just on fire with this whole gold Bitcoin thing. And I was like, Jeffrey Tucker, yeah, you know? And then this whole Bcash thing with the bigger blocks and the I don't understand Lightning Network because it's so complicated and I'm a caveman. Your world is strange and confusing to me. So yeah, now he's like April Fool's Daying us about Bitcoin not scaled. So, oh well, if only he had a brain. If only he had a brain.
Or a heart.
Or a heart.
But no, it's the lion. The lion's without the heart.
The lion needs a heart, and the Tin Man needs a brain. Scarecrow needs courage. But oh well. I just read that damn book too. Oh well. I screwed that one up. But still, he looks more like the Scarecrow, I think. It's just there's something about Jeffrey Tucker. I'm like, Scarecrow, idiot. Foppish fool. But oh well, maybe he'll come back. We'll root for him to come back. Come on, Jeffrey Tucker.
Sorry, just very quickly, you must know this, Tom. So that because you're a fountain of energy, a fountain of knowledge and energy. I'm the energy. You're the knowledge. But the Wizard of Oz wasn't that about the economy? Is that, am I right, or is that just
the original? Well, I mean, the main thing is that they changed it in the movie, but in the original book, she's wearing silver slippers. So now she's wearing silver slippers and she's walking on a yellow brick gold. or Yellow Brick Road, right? Sorry, gold is what I'm trying to say. It's a huge monetary fable about Dorothy in Kansas in the Great Depression. Things are bad. What does she need to get out of the Great Depression? Silver shoes and a golden road, right? She walks the golden road till she reaches the wizard, happens to be a con man, not too different from now, maybe. The man behind the curtain, he's all powerful. Oh, and then revealed behind the curtain, all the emails, all the little stories from the inside, all the articles. So yeah, I think it's a lot like now, but yeah, it was a slight monetary metaphor. I mean, it's not too heavy. I mean, I read the book. It's a pretty light book. They go from place to place. They talk to person. It's pretty straightforward. It wasn't really, I don't know, I didn't expect much, and there wasn't much there, but it was fun. It was free. It was on my Kindle. So, can't complain. But yeah, Wizard of Oz, not bad. So yeah, here's your palate cleanser. This is a good time for everyone to run away if you don't want to hear the news. A lot of people in the chat, they can't take the news. 100,000, 200,000 dead. It's pretty rough. So let's get distracted. This statue from the British Museum looks lonely. Let's find her friends. Let's also consider the incredibly good condition of this statue. See, the face is still intact. See, the hair is fantastically detailed. The dress, very much still intact. Lost an arm. Remember, arms, noses, these are going to fall off because they're heavy and they're just attached. It's not a bone inside. It's just all statue, so it's more likely to fall off. But let's go ahead and find more about this statue. She looks Greek. Let's check Athens and check out the Parthenon. Also interesting here, note the scaffolding and all the modern equipment here. They are rebuilding the Parthenon. I don't know when, because they're using the original pieces. And
from London?
No, not the London pieces. The pieces from the ground, like the rocks and stuff. So you can't really see on these columns. These are better columns than some of the other ones. But the other columns have all these white plaster marks and all these original pieces where they've kind of shoved them in. And it's just going to take a lot longer to rebuild it that way. Here you can see some. I
do like modern architecture, but surely, and then the fact that Elon Musk is doing his the space thing, and everyone's kind of got their little niches of stuff that they do, billionaires. But come on, someone's got to build a giant pyramid on steroids or something.
We got one.
Stony.
We got one in Vegas, baby.
Burj Khalifa. I suppose, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But we've got these modern ones, but I just want to see some old, immense thing. I like old, massive immense.
That's part of the beauty of the miracle of the pyramids and everything, is we kind of don't know how they did it. We have theories and all kinds of other things, but no one's actually undertook get the slaves out there, do it with manpower, no modern equipment, drag the rocks around, build a pyramid.
Maybe it was Craig Wright who went back in time to show that big blocks do scale.
I think someone did. They built a model of of Stonehenge. They might have built a second Stonehenge to prove that you could build a Stonehenge. And it does sound pretty, seems like there's pretty good ways to do that. When I was a kid, I didn't really understand it or whatever, but now they're saying you could lay the rocks out, dig a big hole, tip the rock into the hole, then you dig out the hole, you dig out the rock, and it looks like it's freestanding. So it's a trick. Other kinds of things, similar things like that, burying the rock the whole way. So, but as we can see, there's the katydids on the porch there, over there in Athens. So let's walk over that way. Hey, there they are on the porch, and looking at a close-up. This looks familiar, right? That's probably the same woman. So wait, it's a copy. All the original figures are now replaced by copies. The mystery deepens, right? Are we going to be able to find this woman? Do we have the abilities? I mean, we have the internet. Could this be her sister? Look at this. That is quite some damage there. You can barely see the wisp of the hair. Here you can see this rock pieces are snapped together.
That's one unlucky sister.
That's rough. She had a rough time. They actually said on the tour she was used as target practice. One of the groups that took over the Parthenon shot at this statue. You can see the back of the dress there, just a little bit of the dress. This rock probably had dress on the front of it, but has obviously chipped all the way off. This is a replacement rock here. And then look, there's more. The rest are fine. Although fine is questionable. Look at the faces. clearly rubbed off by time. A lot of the details been lost.
Wearing face masks. Well, you can't see any definition.
Ahead of their time with the face mask. But again, it's just the features fell off, the acid rain, the destruction of being outside. Here's a family photo. You can see the one in the back that was a target practice, and then the other three. And then there's me in Athens and at the British Museum, which is where these all came from, or at least one of them. One of them, the first one that's nice, is in the British Museum. The other three, including the fourth that was used for target practice, are in the Parthenon Museum in Greece. So that's the story of the statue. So there you go. And now here's the news. Oh, well. So much for good times. Let's see what's going on. Balaji says, not a political comment, but a legal question. If there's a theory of legal liability for downplaying the virus, doesn't apply to most of the outlets down below. And he's got a quip of, looks like quite a lot of local news stations, the Associated Press, USA Today, lots more local news stations, Science Alert, even CCN, Cryptocurrency News, right? But what Balaji's not quite taking in here is that it's going to matter about the discovery, because the emails and the text messages behind the scenes when you're making the news will determine if these people were just saying what they believed, which is not a problem, or if they believed something different and were saying false information. It's a difference of being false by making a mistake or being false on purpose.
What do you think? Do you think that's going to have an impact on the what's the word? The not efficacy, but the accuracy of information in future? If they do get their knuckles wrapped because they purposely misled, that's fair enough. But you could argue that it caused deaths. But I would argue that there's another type of scammer. There's a scammer who knows they're a scammer, and then there's a scammer who's just incompetent or they're oblivious. And that sort of scammer, I don't want to go into too much detail, but sometimes they can be like alternative medicine people who kind of stop other people from doing chemo and other stuff, and that can cause harm. But because there's no intent behind it, it's generally less difficult to prosecute. So do you think that there should be some sort of responsibility that people shouldn't be reporting on stuff unless they're capable of understanding the numbers, so that they're reducing this misinterpretation that could be happening here? Because some of it could be ignorance, some of it could be bad, but should that be regulated more, do you think, since human lives are...
The standard is based upon truth, that they should be telling the truth, because it's not so much a question of misunderstanding or misreading the numbers. It's a question of if behind the scenes, and we're going to get to the next article.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The next articles, they talk about how at the Fox News offices, they were Lysoling everything, that they sent around a little manual to employees of how to be safe. But the manual to employees was different than what they were reporting on the air. So that's where the problem comes. When we can point to that manual, we can say, internally, you're saying this. Externally, you're saying that. They're different, and you're misleading people, and it's making it unsafe. I think there will be a court case. I think we're going to get the text messages and the emails. I think they're going to be heavily incriminating, and we're going to have to see from there. But I'm not sure it'll be a wrapping on the knuckles. This might be a wrecking of their corporation, because it's one thing to have someone that lies or someone that makes a fake article. Even the New York Times had someone that was doing that, writing the fake article, stealing other people's words, right? And that's a huge plagiarism, big deal, right? Big deal in journalism. Almost sunk their, sterling reputation, or previously sterling reputation. For Fox, who already has a bad reputation, the reality that their audience is older and that they gave bad information to an older audience should break through to people. Even if you like their commentary and their style and their politics and so on and so forth, you have to put that to the side, and you have to say, in this case, they gave us false information that could have cost these old people their lives. Like, it's pretty scary. Like, when your audience is old people, to be giving false information, it's actually unsafe for their future advertising wise. Like, there's just not going to be an audience there. So I think it's hugely dangerous. And again, I hope they didn't do it. I hope that behind the scenes we find these emails and these text messages, and they're so exonerating, and they're all saying it's the flu and it's bullshit, and I'm not even washing my hands, and they're just going to be behind the scenes. It's going to be just so like reassuring. Like, it's going to make us all feel really good.
What about if it's incorrect information, but there is no intent, so it is incompetent? So we say, right, they printed off, they misinterpreted the figures, because that happens all the time, or people pick numbers that kind of look bad in a certain way but out of context. That leads to lives being lost. There's no intent, there's just pure incompetence.
But if we're looking at this right here,
reporter
it's not really a question of figures. It seems that they've made a conclusion that this brand new, it's even called novel. That means novel. That means new, right?
I'm not talking about this specifically. Well, no, I'm talking about other stuff.
Well, we can't talk about other stuff. We have to talk about this. I mean, we're looking at the graphic right here. The graphic is that Balaji put together is pretty much the theme of these articles is coronavirus worse than the flu? Is deadly virus worse than the flu? Deadly virus maybe no more dangerous than the flu. So what happens here is they've made this flu comparison. Now, if they just repeat the numbers, you never have to make any comparisons, right? You're just like, the numbers are this. The scientists say that it's novel, it's brand new. You just report the facts, right? You don't have to interpret things. It's this interpretation of linking this brand new virus to the ancient flu. They're making huge, like, they've made a scientific judgment there. And that's, this is just the beginning of it. The rest of it is going to be the downplaying. That it is, not as bad as the flu. Once you've made this link, I think the right thing to do is never to make that link. There is no connection between the brand new novel coronavirus and the ancient flu, right? They're, hundreds of thousands of years apart, like evolutionary, like they're both illnesses, but if we're just going to say all illnesses are the same, like, we don't know the difference between AIDS and herpes and HIV. I mean, all these things, like, we have a little bit of experience with illnesses, right? Every single person on earth, right? We know the difference between, like, bad eyesight or cancer or, AIDS or the cold, right? The common cold. Like, we know the basic difference and the basic categorizations. So I would never say that, bad eyesight is the same thing as cancer, right? That's a bizarre scientific judgment. And if I went on the TV every day and said, like, you have your bad eyesight's going to kill you, like, it would be a ridiculous thing to say. If I also said, cancer's not going to kill you, also a ridiculous thing to say. So I think the problem came when they made that connection. And if you go out there into the disinformation world, a lot of people are repeating this flu thing. And if you want to track it back, where did it come from? Just like a virus, a thought virus. We can say it seems like these outlets here, and there's a lot, there's ones that I read. I mean, Wired is in here, Atlantic's in here, CNN. Like, Balaji is right in expanding this image, but again, it's going to be the text behind the scenes.
I never saw a single article comparing to flu. I mean, there were numbers, there were various people from the UK side, but it's naturally the first thing you do is compare it to something else, right? Especially something that it has similar properties, similar symptoms, etc. I think that I don't know. I think it's a bit more innocuous than that.
I'm not some people see information
like some people saw the warning signs in China and completely panicked, and whether seemingly rightly so or not, we would have moved a lot quicker. Some people said, well, I'm not seeing the same thing. It's very, I don't know. If they're purposely doing stuff that's bad, I think, obviously,
again,
it's a no-brainer. If they're disobeying the rules, that's bad.
We're gonna get the emails.
My point was just that cool. Take them to cleaners. If they're liars, cool, take them. That's obvious. That's they've committed a crime by doing that. But it's more I still think there's a much bigger problem of general. I'm no journalist. I'm no scientist. I like science, but there's a lot of incompetent scientific reporting, which is also very prevalent in medicine as well. So people spreading stuff like if you inject yourself with 50,000 milligrams of vitamin C, then that all of that sort of stuff that gets publicized on these like crazy alt medicine sites. They believe they're doing well, but they're causing harm. Should that be all? That that's the thing I'm on after is,
again, like, we can bring up Apple, we can bring up other issues, but we have to talk about the issue we're talking about. So, I mean, issue by issue, yes, we investigate other claims, but if we look at the scale and scope of these claims, the amount of time in which they were repeated, if this was just the first day, and they're like, oh, on the first day they compared it to the flu, but then the next day they read a bunch of books about it and they, reversed course, maybe even corrected the first day. They're like, have they ever issued a correction saying that it's not like the flu, saying that we're sorry we made a mistake? Like that's another problem.
To do that. If it depends on what comparison they're making.
Given the reality of their statements, which we've played on the video several times, like they've made several false statements. Like the natural, honest journalist thing to do is to issue a clarification and say that your thoughts have changed. Like maybe you got new information, maybe you had bad information, maybe you just made a bad hunch. Like we have forgiveness for these things. If you apologize, if you announce that you're changing course. They didn't apologize. They didn't announce that they're changing course. They just mystically, in the middle of the night, something happened in the larger consciousness where they're like, oh, we can't do this anymore. The downplaying has to stop. And again, we're going to have the emails on that. We're going to have the text messages on that. So, no, I mean, any other thing is smaller than this. This is the biggest, like there's 4 to 6 weeks of their press coverage saying it's like the flu. And we have all these people now on the internet repeating that it's like the flu. So we have to find out where that came from. And in a specific case here, legal definitions, like if you're putting out false information that causes people to underestimate the virus, they go out and get infected and they die. Your false information helped them go out. It helped them make their decision.
Those laws are already in place, though. So that's why I'm confused about what we're arguing about. If you put out false information and don't retract it, correct it,
we're just predicting that this is what's going to happen to them. That they have put out false information on a grander scale than anyone ever has before. The evidence is all there on videotape, and the evidence is all there in the text messages and the emails, and we're going to get it all.
So what about the WHO, for example? I think it's almost agreed that universally agreed that masks are effective. There are very few people that seemingly that don't. It's almost it's a very big opinion. That's why people are trying to steal PPE, because even the people believe that. So should the WHO be liable for dishing out incorrect information?
Well, we don't know at this time, but I do think what we'll find out there is. And during the president's press conference yesterday that we're trying to get to, he pretty much gives the game away. What he said is, and they asked him a second time, a consecutive day, about masks. And what he says, it's probably okay, you can wear them, but we don't want too many people hoarding them because we're afraid that hospitals won't have them. Obviously, he didn't say those words, but that's generally what he said. And what he's saying there is what I think the truth is that they made a top-level decision, and I don't have evidence, we'll know eventually, that they made a top-level decision that we would hoard and misuse the masks, so they decided to tell us that they don't work.
It's quite a big thing to speculate on, though, isn't it? I don't have any evidence, but that's what they said, is they've decided to hoard the evidence.
Well,
you seem quite convinced without
the simplest explanation is the most logical explanation. The most logical explanation.
Occam's razor, but
given that we have shortages,
not Occam's razor.
We have gear shortage now. So we knew that we had gear shortages then. So that what will we do to prevent the gear shortages is tell the people this. Also, if you look at American history, we've had like 100 years since the pandemic where each time we've gone against wearing masks. So we have 100 years of history of doing it. We have an immediate need for supplies. I think the most logical thing is that they looked at their supplies. And again, no one likes to hear this, but sometimes, adults have to make decisions behind closed doors and not tell us till later. And there's all kinds of examples in history we can go back and find where governments have made a decision like not to tell the people. Like, for example, when they developed the nuclear bomb at the Manhattan Project. They didn't just go out and announce it, right? It was a nuclear weapon. They waited till they used it. After they used it, they announced it. After that, then we could get all mad at the government. They used our money on this nuke, blah, 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 blah. But we didn't even know until they'd done it. There were hints and things.
Who defines how much information should be withheld from the public?
Well, that's a really good question, Dan. We're well into it here, because the whole, even just for example, in the United States, the budget of, say, the CIA or whatever other, group you want to talk about is actually confidential. because if we said we're spending 150 million on spying, China could say, well, we're going to spend 300 million. Now we know that we're spending twice what the U.S. spent. Even if it's all garbage, we're probably going to get more creepy stuff than they had, right? So you keep the budget silent. So now we don't even really know the budget. That's why there was all that nonsense about military is paying 15 grand for a hammer or whatever. And it's just the covert budget is hidden in that hammer. Not to say there's not waste in the military as well, but a lot of it is this, covert budget hiding. So, yes, in the U.S., I'm not sure what the standard is for what we get to know and what we don't get to know. I do think that it rolls out. So, president knows a lot of things. CIA directors know a lot of things. The top people in Congress know a lot of things. Most of the people in Congress know a lot of things. The people don't know that much. So, and again, this is a massive, we could debate this forever about the, who should know what. But yeah, that's what I think the WHO, the most logical, most simplest explanation is 100 years of not wearing masks, which is a big deal like that. You can't just overlook that. In the same way, Hong Kong, China, other parts of Asia have a mask wearing culture. It was no problem for them. They felt fine with it. In America, even President Trump has just been in the press conferences, as we were going to try to go to, you'll see that, he just doesn't like the idea of America wearing masks. Dan's got the picture there, and police officers all look fine, but I think everyone else with a mask on, at least in America, the idea is that you're going to rob a convenience store. If we see 3 guys going down the street in bandanas, you look at them funny. They're hiding their identity. And we talked about this a long time ago now, before the crisis on the Bitcoin group, how in China, so many people were wearing masks that it was messing up facial recognition. They couldn't use facial recognition on their phone. China's very advanced in some places. Their apartment buildings would let you in based on your face. Your work would let you in, give you access based on your face. And if you're wearing a mask, your face is not your face. So yeah, it's been a big issue with the masks. And I just don't think that, okay, the other option is that the WHO knows that masks work and told you not to wear them on purpose so that you die. So I don't think that's the answer, right? That doesn't make any sense. And again, that's kind of what the conspiracy. And incompetence would work too. Incompetence is fine as well. But incompetence is a lot harder to understand than I think this saving the stockpiles. Saving the stockpiles, even though it's it's like a parent to the child. It's demeaning. It's not what you want. They're treating you like a child, but I think they treat us like children. I think they would do that if they thought there weren't enough masks. I think that's what they do. But again, it could just be incompetence, like they were supposed to recommend masks but didn't. Could be one of these things, they made a bad decision on the first day and then they've been stuck with it and they're just defending a bad decision. Leadership culture fails like that. You're stuck. You can't get out.
Dig in.
I don't believe there's a broad conspiracy of the WHO trying to kill us.
No, I don't believe that. I just think they're useless. And there probably is a bit of side handing in, here and there. I'm not talking major conspiracy, but the same general corruption that happens everywhere. But it just seems like it's utter, incompetence. I keep on. It really is. I mean, I'd like to think that other than maliciousness. That's the other. I don't
think it's malicious. I think it's more protective. It's parental. It's it's this overprotectiveness and it might be even misplaced. They might have tried to protect the stockpile, failed to do that, failed to protect the people. It might be a terrible decision, but I believe it was likely made with good intentions. And again, we're gonna debate it forever later if we find out this is true, right? If we get their board meetings and shit, and it's gonna be a question of how much should you tell the people? And good people are gonna testify on both sides. Good people are gonna go up there and say you don't want to cause a panic, and they're right. And good people are gonna say you have to tell the people the truth, and they're right too. So I mean, it's gonna be a debate. There's somewhere in the middle that we're gonna find, and that's what I think is gonna happen. But let's keep going with the news. Let's see what else we got. We hardly started. The Dow Jones dropped 400 points, but that was yesterday. It dropped 300 to 400 points at today's open as well. Let's see. Should Americans prepare for the likelihood that there will be 100,000 Americans that will die from the virus? Fauci says the answer is yes. So a lot of this press conference I felt was a repeat of yesterday. I thought yesterday they kind of, took the wrapping off of the 100,000 to 200,000 could die, and that number was then out there. And then it was because first Fauci said it in an interview, and he said it kind of wrong. At first he said 100,000 to 200,000 cases. Then he said, whoops, I mean deaths. There'll be millions infected. So it was not a good way just to deliver it. He made some verbal errors when he was saying it the first time. But then they said it again yesterday, and then they said it today. So you've had a really good chance to let this start to sink in. And again, 100,000, 200,000 dead, I think is a huge failure. But the person who's in office right now is taking credit for it as a huge success. So that's a big surprise. Here's Trump next to an exponential curve of the virus. He's got his hand out. Looks like he's almost driving this. I agree with Aaron Rupar. He says this image will be in an attack ad, that it feels like an attack ad already. This is just a image from the time. But let's try to keep going. Here's the same chart. You can see the United States, the blue line right here, is just shooting up out of control exponentially. We're seeing the bottom of the S curve. It's going to go straight up, and then hopefully it flattens out. Right? If you look at China's curve right here, their straight up period is very small. Right? In a .com or something, this would be bad. But in a virus, this is incredibly good. We are not seeing that same flattening. Neither is Italy or Spain, but none of them are as bad as the U.S. Italy's outbreak is not as an extreme a curve as the Spanish curve or the American curve. So based upon these charts, if you extrapolate, draw little lines going out, into the tweets here, yeah, it's going to go way up. So,
yeah, but I suppose the other thing is with that is that it doesn't kind of take into account, it's only the number of confirmed cases. So if America have tested a lot more people, then, and there are, they've had generally, if they tested everyone in Italy, their numbers would be a lot higher, right?
Well, so it's I agree. The numbers are
that's the numbers a good thing. That's like we're testing. We know it's ubiquitous.
Well, the numbers are really from a week ago. These are last week's numbers. These are 2 weeks ago numbers. We are not like it's yes, they come in every day, but they're not really like hip numbers. This isn't really, digital. Right. We don't have this to the 0.000. So yeah, these are old numbers. These show us where the virus was. It's still doing what it's doing right now. So I don't think. I mean, yeah, the numbers could be different in this way or that way. But looking at the numbers we do have, they're incredibly bad. So I think.
But I'm not talking about looking at numbers differently. I'm just saying that
even if it was off,
if we know that it's ubiquitous and you're testing more people, then
but I mean, it's going to be
a graph and saying this is really bad. I'm not.
It's going to be it's going to be a variance, right? I mean, unless the numbers.
If you also took the population, US is also at least 10x times Italy. So if that's cases and not deaths, then surely that's proportionately pretty good. Am I not?
I mean, it's really a matter of statistics. So if the numbers are 100% wrong, then yes, they're not very valuable. But it's much more likely the numbers are at most 10 or 20% off. So if we just even assumed a 10 or 20% variance, all we're really talking about, it could be 10 or 20% worse over here. It could be 10 or 20% better over here. It's still going to be this kind of curve. Like for the numbers to change this curve, they'd have to be like 70 to 80% off. And I don't think that's what we're saying with the testing problem, with the, per capita issues. I mean, any of those things, I don't think it's going to change the curve. Like it would have to be completely wrong, which if it was completely wrong, we'd bring in the new numbers. We'd look at the new charts. We would try to understand the new information. But no, I think if it's off by 20%, 30%, it's still a crazy curve going up. I don't think that there's no amount of wrong numbers that could change this curve unless it was 100% wrong. If it was 90% wrong, if it was, substantially wrong. And I think it's more likely it's casually wrong, that it's like adjustable wrong. If you look at the numbers like on election day when they come in and they're like, you're looking at 10% in and you're like, how can they predict it from 10% in? And as it turns out, the other districts pretty much look like that district. If you're winning by 50%, you're probably going to be winning by 50% in all the districts just because that's how the numbers go. Like, So no, I don't think the numbers are that wrong that we'd give up. Trump is continuing the press conference. He's talking about false comparisons. He's saying we should have done nothing. And he keeps using this as a comparison to make the 100,000 death look good. As he said, if we had done nothing, there would be death all over, people dying on airplanes and in hotel lobbies, which obviously would have stopped us from doing nothing. We would have had to do something as soon as everyone started dying everywhere. But yeah, this is just one of those fake comparisons. He's making you compare doing nothing, which he says would cost millions of lives, with doing whatever he did, which was not a lot more than nothing. So he's just trying to cover that up. He keeps making this false comparison. The White House briefing room slide lists as goals 100,000 to 240,000 deaths. And again, another just instant attack ad. Trump looking at the number of deaths here. So pretty dark. And again, yeah, maybe we would have moved aggressively like South Korea. That's the real question. Not if we've done nothing. What if we've done more? Would the numbers be lower? Obviously, they would be. So there's obviously a gap there. There's more we could have done. And again, making the false comparison to nothing, continuing to drag us into this non-argument where no one was saying do nothing, makes it harder for us to understand what we could have done, as well as just getting on the right page here. Again, the right thing to do here is to say, we made a mistake early on, and now we're moving forward. Well, that's all you have to do. But as long as you don't say that, this continues.
With things like words and their meanings, though, like lots of people have said he's done nothing, and he hasn't actually done nothing.
Okay, he closed China and he closed Italy.
But then those people that say that he's done nothing is wrong. So I just
after closing,
I don't know what point he could do something that would ever make you think, hey.
Again, it's in the past. It's not going to change.
Biased,
if the evidence would change in the past, it would be fantastic, Dan. If he had ordered even a single ventilator, like again, I'm just going to get a graph, and I'm just going to show you on a graph how many ventilators the United States made per day, and you're going to be like, wow, those early numbers are really low, and those later numbers are a lot higher. And it seems like if you picked up those later numbers and moved them to the front, that we would have more ventilators for that point where we spike and we have more patients than ventilators. And if we had more ventilators than patients, we could save those people's lives. So it's not a question of did he do everything. I'm not saying that he could have perfectly predicted it and had testing ready and had masks ready and had ventilators ready, even though the more we investigate into the government, the more we see plan after plan to attempt to make ventilators, the more we see giant, protection industry after protection industry saying, hey, we have a ventilator problem. 2015, we have a ventilator problem. 2009. I mean, these are a large game. And again, we have to look at all those people, and those are different presidents too, and they're going to be accountable for starting or not finishing the programs, these kind of things. But it's going to happen. We're going to find out. And the way they're treating it now, the way they're making this false comparison to doing nothing, like the guy right here is making the right comparison. What about South Korea? Well, South Korea had tests. So they took the WHO test, then they tested everyone. They tested everyone getting off the airplanes. If somebody got off the airplanes and said they got sick, they said, where'd you get sick from? Who'd you hang out with? Then they went and they tested those people. Then they tested those people. And this aggressive testing strategy allowed South Korea to control the curve, smash the curve, not even thought possible, and they have an incredibly low amount of deaths. Now we can work it out per capita, we can do percentages, we can do all kinds of things. South Korea acted differently than the U.S. We can make a comparison that what they did is not what we did. So closing China, closing Italy, ... Make ventilators, make masks, do tests, track people. Even if we just thought it was a Chinese crisis, what did we do to help the Chinese people? What did we do to make ventilators for them? What did we do to make more masks for them? Also, corporations. This is a profit opportunity, right? Why didn't our corporations roll into this? People have wondered for a while. They're like, why? And it's because for-profit healthcare doesn't take risks on preventative care. If they had extra masks and ventilators, that's a loss for them. If the government has extra masks or ventilators, that's a surplus, right? So it's different organizations. So yeah, we could have done more. And, he keeps saying that he can't, that he couldn't have done more. And he can't admit any fault, right? Other people can. Bill Clinton admitted fault about the affair. And after, it was a long time, took him way too long, but eventually admitted fault. Everybody kind of shrugged their shoulders. Congress censored him, but didn't impeach or didn't remove from office. They impeached, but not removed from office. And we moved on. That's all we need. It's not, I agree. For this guy, it's impossible, but only Nixon could go to China, right? Nixon was a huge anti-Cold Warrior. I mean, he worked for Joe McCarthy. He was like McCarthy's right-hand man during the Red Scare. He was friends with Alger Hiss. I mean, Nixon hated communists, but he went and opened up China. So we do have people that can rise above their previous, feelings or opinions or these kind of things. We do have people that can make change, but not this guy. So let's find out what would happen if we do nothing. Here we go. Trump laying the
question,
propaganda.
What would have happened? Because this is the question that I've been asking.
Or
Dr.
if you did
Fauci,
something.
Dr.
What if you
Birx
did something?
For a long time, and they've been working on this for a long time. The question is, what would have happened if we did nothing? Because there was a group that said, let's just write it out. Let's write it out. What would have happened?
There wasn't.
And that number comes in at 1.5 to 1.6 million people, up to 2.2 and even beyond. So that's 2.2 million people would have died if we did nothing. We just carried on our life. Now, I don't think that would have been possible because you would have had people dying all over the place. This would not have been a normal life. How many people have even seen anybody die? You would have seen people dying on airplanes. You would have been seeing people dying in hotel lobbies. You would have seen death all over. So I think from a practical standpoint, that couldn't have been carried out too far. But if you did nothing on the higher side, the number would be 2.2 and maybe even more, and on the lower side, 1.6.
So again, complete false comparisons. No one was calling to do nothing. In fact, we were all calling for him to do something or anything.
Well, there were many people calling to do nothing, actually, and especially the UK. But the herd immunity, they were saying, right, if we carry on and we go for there were multiple countries that were doing that, though. So I'm just not sure. I don't like Trump. I do like the fact that his hair's not waffling around.
Okay, but Dan,
joked about
imagine,
that took up a lot
imagine
of time
for a second, let's have another thought exercise because you're not putting yourself in his shoes. Imagine that I had done nothing for 4 to 6 weeks and I was desperate to distract you from this. I was so desperate to distract you from this nothing we'd done, from this sitting on ass, from all the bad statements. I was so desperate. So instead of saying, we made a mistake during those 4 to 6 weeks of doing nothing, what if I could redirect that in any way? And I could create some kind of a straw man, some kind of a complete false person. And I could say, this false person said we should have done nothing. Now, in comparison to this false
there are
person,
many people.
Herd immunity is not the same as nothing. Herd immunity is a policy. This is nonsense, Dan. You're talking nonsense, man. I'm sorry. Right. I don't know what you're talking about. He's distracting you. No one said do nothing. Go back and find the clip. They said coronavirus is breaking out in China. I think we should do nothing. You're right, Bob. I hope as many people die of this virus as possible. I'm not a fan of humans. No one said that, dude. Go find your thing. What they said, it was fine. It's not that they said do nothing. They said do nothing because it's fine. You're missing. This is the guy. This is the guy who said do nothing. This is the guy who said it was like a flu. This is the guy who said it was a Democratic hoax. Every single day. Every single day. Many people is not a defense for him. Many people includes that he said it. So many people and this guy who happens to be the president said it on TV every day for weeks. Every day that it was nothing. He's the one who said it was nothing. He's the one who said it was like the flu. Him, his administration, all his people on TV, yes. All the people that trickle down from the president, the entire train of Republican thought said that it was a flu and it was nothing. So yes, he's the one who said it was nothing. Now he's making a comparison with himself. It's a false comparison. It's not true. And again,
I propose that we change the term red herring to red hat because it would be more appropriate when...
Propose whatever you want, Dan. You're just acting like a fool. So no, the third day in a row, and we're making this show go on forever. We're never going to get through any of the clips. We're never going to get to what they actually said. We're just going to spend our time defining red hats and red herrings. What are we doing? We're not going to change the names of the logical fallacies here. No true Scotsman would do that. Come on. Let's have some fun.
Aye.
Let's play some freaking clips.
Agree.
So, yeah, more back to this. Third day in a row, Trump mentions his alleged friend. Today, more details. He's a big, tough guy, a little heavy. He says goodbye. You think he's talking about himself? Do you think he's like kind of mentally projecting like what would happen if he was in a coma? Because most other people would kind of, even a politician, especially a politician, right? They would use this opportunity to highlight their humanity, right? That they feel for their friend, my friend John, my friend Joe. Like why is the reason to hide the friend's name? Nothing wrong with being a friend of the president, right? That's awesome. President's friend. And you know, so I don't know. We're going to see. We got the fourth day coming up. If he mentions his friend, obviously, spoiler alert, if his friend is in a coma and he's in the hospital, I hope he recovers. But we know that most of the people that are older, that are on a coma, they're in a hospital with this disease, don't recover. So there's two ways the story ends. His friend recovers, his friend doesn't recover, or maybe his friend doesn't exist and we never hear about this again. So no, I mean, it really humanizes him to have a friend. It's really a human emotion that he expresses, and he seems sad. But I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Is there a friend?
I don't know. Well, to be fair, in theory, maybe his friend's just like really hardcore on OPSEC. So he's like, and his friend sat there in a coma, listening but not able to, and he's like going, "Just don't say my fucking name, Trump. Please don't say my bloody name." So it could be like that.
Maybe he's in politics. He doesn't want it said. So
yeah. So, but at the end of the day, you know, the politicians always do that to humanize themselves. You know, they kind of do like a random task, and they're like, oh, you know, like Cameron when he had a pie, and he's like, oh, here's me eating a pie, and like didn't know how to open the thing or whatever. Or Elizabeth Warren with a beer, and she's like, oh, I'm having a casual beer. Or like Boris when he goes down a zip line and he gets stuck there and looks like an idiot. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
they just try and do things human, and they try and look all clever and cool, and they're just like, oh my god, no. You're not human. You're a crazy, evil president, or, you know, prime minister, London mayor.
And again, yesterday was the big turn press conference where everything changed, and Trump said that it is not the flu, it is vicious. As Yamiche Alcindor notes, in the past, Trump has repeatedly compared coronavirus to the flu. So this is the day where it all changed. Yesterday, it became not like the flu. He says a lot of people wanted to ride it out as if it were the flu, says Daniel Dale, another an anchor here from CNN. He repeatedly likened it to the flu. He said 4 days ago that you can call it the flu. So again, Dan, the enemy is coming from inside the house. The one who was downplaying it and saying we should do nothing because it is the flu is the same one who is today telling us that it is not the flu. It is vicious. So again, you have to keep up. Like, propaganda moves fast. Bob Cesca writes, Trump's little heavier, little older friend doesn't exist. The way it works now is that he has to prove that his friends exist. It would be great if he would prove that his friend existed. Trump on masks. You can use a scarf. 4 weeks in, let the people use scarves. Come on, people in the chat. Aren't you mad about this? He could have said use a scarf 4 weeks ago. There's no reason to hide this important scarf information from the American people. But again, he goes back to, he says, hopefully you don't have to do that. Wear masks. Hopefully it will be gone. And again, it would be gone if we wore masks. It would be gone if we listened to the scientists and we stayed home. That's the way it's going to be gone. It's not going to be gone through hopefully. Hopefully is not going to help. So we don't need more empty hope. They said, how did South Korea become victorious so swiftly? It says the decision was made at the top to do whatever it takes to combat the virus. Then, within 2 weeks, they made enough viable test kits to test the entire population, thus the solution. So if we want to know how to win this, the answer is right out there. You do what South Korea did. You do what Japan did. You copy, well, maybe not Japan, but South Korea especially. You copy what worked, right? The virus is pretty much the same all over. It hasn't really been mutating. It's going to be the same virus here. The same things that work there are going to work here. Trump is taking credit for anything under 2 million deaths. Anything under 2 million deaths. That's the other way that you do it as a propagandist, is you set expectations. So you say, anything under this ridiculous number is a win. It's a great way to set expectations. So you could say, like, less than 100,000 people will die watching this show. Wow, what a hero you are, Dan. You prevented those 100,000 people from dying because they watched this show. Like, yes, awesome. Like, how about 1 million? 1 million people could have died. Wow, that's even better. Like, the bigger you make the lie, the bigger you make the numbers, the more it works. Again, we have another clip of Trump denying the WHO's coronavirus death rate based upon a hunch. He calls the coronavirus the corona flu. He suggests that it's fine for people to go to work, and he compares it to the regular flu. The enemy is inside the house. Where is this person saying that it's nothing, that it's just a regular flu, that the death rate is not true, that you should go back to work? Where can we find this person? We need OJ.
10.4%.
We got to get OJ on this,
and
right?
a report that the Olympics
OJ,
could be delayed. Your reaction to that?
Hoax. Well, I think the 3.4% is really a false number. Now, this is just my hunch. And but based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this, because a lot of people will have this, and it's very mild.
So is it a hunch, or is it based on a lot of people's conversations? You see how those are already different ideas? A hunch is an intuition that comes from within inside. It's not based on information. The other side is information. If you talk to a lot of people and they give you information, so if I'm going to lie to you, I'm going to phrase it right. I'm going to say, I have a hunch. Then I'm going to say, I have an intuition with information, right? Now it's an information-based hunch. My gut has been reading, right? My gut has been reading encyclopedias and shit. It's full of information, right? This is nonsense. This is a ridiculous way to talk. And you guys at home need to break this down. You need to really learn how to parse information. If I have a hunch, it's based on information, I'm lying to you. I have an intuition. That intuition is I feel like swinging. Why'd you swing? I had a hunch. It's intuition, right? Whereas I had information. The WHO right here is saying they have information. Trump's saying it's not true based upon a hunch, but he's also including information. That's how you lie. This is a really advanced lying. Like, let's get to the higher levels here. Let's start using our brains, huh?
Better very rapidly. They don't even.
Let's hear that again.
And a report that the Olympics could be delayed. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think the 3.4% is really a false number. Now,
false number.
This is just my
based
hunch.
On what?
And but based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this, because a lot of people will have this, and it's very mild. They'll get better very rapidly. They don't even see a doctor. They don't even call a doctor. You never hear about those people, so you can't put them down in the category of the overall population in terms of this corona flu and or virus. Correct. So you just can't do that.
It's again downplaying. Like he knows the right name, he's using the wrong name on purpose because you guys are idiots. He wants you to die.
Just by sitting around and going to work. Some of them go to work, but they get better.
Get better.
And then when you do have a death, like you've had in the state of Washington, like you had one in California, I believe you had one in New York, all of a sudden it seems like 3 or 4%, which is a very high number, as opposed to a fraction of 1%. But again, they don't know about the easy cases because the.
All right, let's see if we've had any deaths out there. Let's see, have there been any deaths? I know I saw the old Mad Bitcoin's Twitter account. There was something just this morning. Gosh, let's take a look.
Oh shit! It's nearly 40. It's over 45,500 now. That's jumped.
Let's see, where'd it go? This guy with his little video. Okay, here it is. This is from Brooklyn, New York. Just this morning.
For real. This is for real. This is for real. If y'all not taking it serious, this may make you want to take it serious, okay? This is for real. My hand is shaking because it's hard to look at this right here, what I'm seeing right now. It's hard to believe this. But y'all, this is for real. This is for real. This is live from Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn Hospital. They're putting bodies in the back of a freezer truck, y'all. Please stay inside. This is for real. This is for real, y'all. Lord, have mercy. Help us, Lord. This is for real. Please, please, y'all stay inside. This is real, y'all. This is coming right now. I'm right here now, right here outside the hospital. This is going on right now. This is live, y'all. This time is 10:40 Sunday morning. This is down. This is down. Come on. Let's pray, y'all. Pray. Get on your knees and pray. This is for real. This is for real. They put bodies in the back of 18.
So again, that was from America, United States of America, Brooklyn, New York City. Just from this Sunday, they're putting bodies in the back of a truck. So.
Very sad. It's crazy, man.
See.
It got nice, looking pretty hardcore in the hospitals from the scenes that they're showing.
And that's the thing. All of this fun talk, all of this fun, all the lies and all the little like tricks that he's playing, it's not going to hold up against the bodies. The bodies are going to come, and that's what they're trying to warn us of in this press conference, as they say here. Rather than the usual barrage of specific false claims, this briefing has featured a dishonest overall narrative, a Trump effort to cast himself as the leader who stood strong against the faction that downplayed the severity of the virus. So again, every once in a while when you have a major narrative in propaganda, you have to have a shift. Our classic example is, of course, 1984. We've always been at war with East Asia. But as you know, during the book, they switched it. They switched it from Eurasia to East Asia. There was one day where, Ministry of Truth had to pull the hammer down, right? They had to switch things. And soon we weren't always at war with Eurasia. We were always at war with East Asia. So there is a day in between where it feels a little funny. And you're like, my truth, my reality is shifting. And this was supposed to be one of these days. That's why he was doing all that, standing up against it being a hoax. Like, he pretty much took sides against anyone who called it a hoax. But that was him. Then he took sides against anyone who called it a flu. But that was also him. Anyone that downplayed it, said it was okay to work, also him. So again, it's a huge shift, right? It's a, what did they say in Fight Club? It's a shift, like it's a changeover when one reel goes dark and the next reel starts. And sometimes you can see the little cigarette burns, boop, boop. We just changed reels here. We're into the new reel. As he says here, Michael Tracey, Trump just said, it's not the flu, it's vicious, which Michael Tracey describes as a devastating blow to the highly persistent MAGA guys in my mentions for 3 weeks. And that's one of the hard parts about one of these switchover days like this, is that you were out there waving the flag, it's just the flu, right? And the president's been with you and Fox News has been with you, this whole echo chamber. So making you feel good about saying it's just the flu, right? It's just the flu. I'm saving lives. The severity's out of control. I'm saving the economy. The severity's out of control. You guys are all brainwashed. It's not a very serious cold at all. It's just like the flu, right? The president just turned on you guys. He just ratted you out. Like, he just, he left you behind. Every time you say it's just the flu now, people are going to quote the president against you. And you guys like the president. You've been following him. So, no, this is a big, big, big day for you guys. No more it's the flu. It's the flu is gone. He says the oil price crash is the greatest tax cut we've ever given. Once again, this is actually a good thing. This is actually a good thing.
That's so dumb.
But he just wants to make you feel good. This is a good news press conference. This is like, you want to feel good. So yeah, Michael Steele, former head of the Republican National Committee, not exactly a liberal here, says, who the hell said you should just ride this out? Perhaps the same person who 30 days ago said, we are at 15 cases and heading to 0. And once again, sorry guys, videotape players still work. We can still remember what the president said 2 weeks ago. I know you guys can't, but we can play it back for you. He said we're at 15 cases and we're heading to 0. It was the same guy. It's coming from inside the house. Let's get back to basics here. Keith Boykin here is going to explain how the Trump press conferences work. And this is classic authoritarianism, classic propaganda, right? No matter what happens in the press conference, no matter what the news is in reality, you can just always apply these rules to keep it the way you like it. Trump makes the same 5 points. Number 1, everything is under control. Number 2, we're doing a great job. Number 3, it's because of me. Number 4, anything bad is not my fault. Number 5, anyone who criticizes me is nasty. There you go. That's the way you do it.
They're all mean.
Yeah.
They're big meanies.
And they're saying in the chat, they're like, yeah, you can't criticize Trump. You're Trump derangement or whatever. Yet at the same time, anything bad is not his fault. Has he ever taken credit for any mistake he's ever made in his entire life?
He's taken lots of credit. He's taken loads of credit. Yeah, loads.
Never any blame, though, right? All the credit, none of the blame.
To be fair, I wish I was. See, my problem when I used to in workplaces is that I'm too honest and too accountable. So if something's stuffed up, I'd be the first to actually put my hand up. And the reason why is because the few people that are intelligent enough to realize would know that they always got the right answer from me. So they knew what the score was. The dumb ones would just be like, oh, he made a mistake. What an idiot.
Well, and that's how we really learn from things. There's this workplace philosophy, and basically what it says is that you should think of your workplace like a submarine. If we were all on a submarine and you saw a leak, you wouldn't just walk by it and say that leak is someone else's job. That's someone else's problem. That's not my problem, because that leak on the submarine is going to kill us all. In the same way, if there's a problem at your startup and it's not in your area, it's in somebody else's area, and it could destroy the whole startup, holacracy says that you should tell people, that you should say there's a mistake. We should fix that leak. And in the same way with the country, if there's a problem, we should fix it. If we made a mistake, we should admit to it. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going around in this loop over and over again till they roll out all the evidence and all the judges and all the lawyers, and then we'll see how it goes. They'll weigh the evidence, and we'll see how it goes. I agree with Aaron Rupar. He says, a Fox News reporter asking Trump about Infrastructure Week seems extra off-key, coming just moments after White House officials said that we should prepare for 100,000 people to die in the months to come. And they really are trying to hammer this through. Trump said a lot of things like it's going to be a very tough couple of weeks. It's going to be a very bad couple of weeks. I'm not sure that really prepares you. Not that there's any way you could be prepared, but I don't know. You'll see. Here's the scarf. We've got the full comment on the scarf from Ryan Strzok. He says, Trump says, you can use a scarf. A lot of people have scarves, and you can use a scarf. A scarf would be very good. My feeling is, if people want to do it, there's certainly no harm in it. I would say do it. Use a scarf if you want. So again, we're talking about the president kind of has this historic role as the protector of the American people, right? It's kind of the unofficial father of the nation, right? It's the unofficial protector. It's a ceremonial role as well as a political role, right? And part of the ceremony is to protect people. And I don't know how you guys can stick with him when we're 20 or 30 days into this and he's just now telling you to wear a scarf. I agree. If we have a shortage of hospital gear and we're going to say, hey, N95 masks are for people with frequent contact, right? These doctors, these nurses, they're dealing with dozens of coronavirus patients a day. Maybe we should say, okay, N95s are for them. But it would be a pretty simple thing, and we've done it on this show for 20 or 30 days now, to say wear a mask, wear a homemade mask, wear a T-shirt, wear a scarf. Less microbes in, less microbes out. Yes, it's a change with America of the past. Yes, it's not a part of our culture recently. I remember going out to the stores in the old days and you'd see maybe an Asian person with a mask and you'd wonder, if they're sick or if they're trying not to be sick. and you'd kind of maybe even avoid them because you don't want to be sick. You know, it's a mean thing to do, but it's something you might do if you see someone in a mask in the old days. But now we need to change that. We need to change the whole culture. And it's a pretty simple, cheap thing to do, to say this, but it took him 30 days to say it. Personally, I find that unacceptable. I'm not a big fan of that. And again, you guys hate the WHO. You hate all these giant organizations and all these kind of fucking things.
Oh, no. What's happened?
I don't know. She thought that it's time to talk, and then I pulled her brain out. So, oh well. So much for Alexa today. But
I was like, have you got a lady under the desktop?
No, she was, and she was just announcing random features. She was like, it's advertisement time. So, no, sorry, Dar. It's not advertising time. Later in the press conference, after he recommended masks for you finally, which again, you guys could take as a slight. You could be like, remember all that times we went to the grocery store not wearing a mask because we listened to Fox News? President says we should wear a scarf. Maybe we should have worn a scarf those other times we went to the grocery store. Shit. Damn. Got to think about that for a while. That's a way homer. We're going to have to think about that one on the way home. So, you guys work on it. You know, what's the classic thing Stern's always playing from the Stooges? I try to think, but nothing happens. I try to think, but nothing happens. Oh, well. The press conference continues. Trump is now critiquing guests on the news shows. He says he prefers military guests. This is just, once again, like, it's fine to have your views on television. Certainly, everyone should have their views about what they like on television. It's just not a good time to announce your views during the coronavirus press briefing. You know, you could say, you know, I watched a great episode of Friends yesterday, and Joey sure got in a lot of trouble. But it wouldn't be that great to say it during the press briefing, right? It's not really a comment on television kind of moment. But, you know, Tommy Boy doesn't have any rules, doesn't have any filters. He just goes out there and gets it. So he does what he wants. Once again, we had this repeated false choice, the false equivalency. Trump closed the borders to China. The one thing he did. It's all we could have done. It's all we did. I guess we also closed the borders to Italy. Whoa, that's two things. It says right here, Ted Boutrous says, I am confident that President Trump does not realize just how self-incriminating it is when he admitted today that the key to preventing deaths is moving quickly to contain and mitigate the spread of the coronavirus, and criticizes New York for supposedly getting a late start. Again, this is classic Trump right here. He's always talking about himself. He's being mean to New York, blaming them for not getting a head start, when at the same time, he's really talking about the United States, that we didn't get a head start, that we could have had a better response. So again, it'll be played during all the trials, and it'll be written about in all the books. We'll be able to read them soon. Agree with Tara. She says the press conference started more serious and a sobering tone because Trump didn't talk much and deferred to the medical experts. Then, like clockwork, Trump can't stand not being the center of attention and starts rambling misinformed nonsense. So frustrating. And again, everyone, they might not see this, but